What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So another one that came out on the 25th of June this year was the newest one from Amenra, Doorn. This comes out on Relapse Records, again on the 25th. Formed in Belgium in 1999. This is their fifth full length. They have a lot of splits and EPs and compilations. Only 5 full lengths though, but there's a ton of material. And it is partially due to the fact that this is part of what is known as the Church of Raw Collective. It is essentially a collective of bands in Belgium, I believe all in Belgium, that share members and have similar themes throughout. Oathbreaker is on there, Hessian, which is a really cool crust punk band, Wise Dude, which I am not familiar with, but I feel like I should because I own a lot of Amenra, I own a lot of Oathbreaker, and I really enjoy these bands in this collective, but Amenra is probably the central focus one that I really got into. Now, when it comes down to describing this band and their overall sound, I would definitely say post-metal, but they've been compared with a lot of other subgenres. Black metal, avant-garde,
Doom metal,
doom, sludge.
Yep.
It's dark. It's maybe more depressive than oppressive, but that kind of depends on when you catch them.
I think this album, you can say, is definitely more depressive.
Yes. And before we go full bore into this, I believe all of the vocals are in Flemish and all of the spoken word parts are in Flemish. So I don't know what they're saying exactly, but this is one of those you can kind of gauge on the tone of the conversation, and I will say that this is probably something really, really dark. I have no idea exactly what they're saying again, but there is a mood that is all the way across this album, and it flows like one piece. So this is just kind of a best front-to-back listen if you want to be incredibly depressed about something you're not sure why you're depressed about.
I'm saying. So, starts out with Agentrust, just slow, kind of ominous tones in the background. To me, it sounds like Battlestar Galactica, like Cylons moving through space, about to pummel a ship full of unsuspecting individuals.
I don't know, it is kind of spacey, but it's like sci-fi horror.
And it pulses too. Like the first probably 2-3 minutes of this track are really quiet with just this
but it keeps building.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, you know it's headed towards something. And then you get the first of many spoken word sections. Again, I don't know what they're saying, but it's dark and it fits the mood.
Yeah, and like the first parts of it sound like a narration, like beginning to tell the story, but they're really somber. It's almost like whispered over this really kind of eerie, cool melody that's going on.
Soundscape almost. I mean, it's a melody, but it's very haunting. And then the song just explodes.
And that happens a lot in this record, where it just explodes out of nowhere.
Giant single notes, heavier than hell, and then you get this contrast between these desperate shrieks. Like, they are dry. There is probably blood spraying all over the microphone wherever they have the singer chained up, and then you have haunting female vocals behind that too. So just mood on this is such a big thing, and the mood is dark,
bleak, hopeless, just ugh. And I like the contrast between the female vocals and the male vocals to set things up. Like, there's definitely a dispute of sorts, I would guess, going on.
Or like a weird, dark, introspective trip, and your internal monologue is screaming at you.
But this song does well to continually build tension throughout the song. First of all, these soundscapes are ginormous. It's layers upon layers upon layers of sound. It's just huge. But there's a slow tension building throughout.
Yep. I mean, and it helps that this is only 5 tracks long, and most of these songs are very long. So they take their time. There is a sort of like methodical, slow pace to this. And, you know, it actually does kind of draw a lot of comparisons to, like, a slow-building movie, you know, how you want to build tension with the characters. Like, this feels like there's character development
yeah,
all throughout, and then when the action scenes come up, they are immense, but all shot in slow-mo.
Yep. I do like the war drums that come in here around the midpoint. The jam that ensues there kind of reminds me of Cynic, their carbon-based anatomy era.
A lot of this, I was drawing a lot of comparisons to, Neurosis, which, if you're into post-metal, there's a damn good chance you've listened to Neurosis. And Cult of Luna.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one.
Very similar to Cult of Luna, though they don't have the more up-tempo, sort of catchier moments that Cult of Luna has now. But the overall feel in terms of the atmosphere is very much there. And for this album, in terms of like getting all these layers right and all these moods right, the production here is really, really good.
Yeah.
You're working with a lot of multiple layers, like layered synths, the drone in the background, ambient guitars.
Yep. Layered vocals, all the screams. When this guy starts to plead for his life, dude, they've got those screams probably tracked, 5 or 6 times. It just sounds like he's right in front of you screaming at you.
Yeah, no, I think they pretty much had him like duct taped in a storage unit, and they just kind of left the mic kind of lowered right in front of him. It was like, if you went out, you gotta scream, we gotta record this. And then they shut off the lights when they were all done, forgot to let him out. But they probably reminded him, like, oh yeah, there's like raccoons in the area, he'll be fine, there's something to play.
But they left the mic on through it all.
Yeah, so they probably recorded that, so some of that might have been him being attacked by the raccoons. How everything is layered is very important, because you can make out almost every single layer in here. It never blends into mud.
Nope.
The bass tone is huge. It just gives this album such a fierce low end, and the drums sound great. Every time that dude hits anything, it is with authority.
Yes.
And of course the appropriate amounts of reverb on there, because this has to sound cavernous and, well, like it was recorded at the bottom of a really, really, really big well.
Which I think the guy may have fallen into.
No, they kidnapped him. He's in the storage unit still, partially eaten by raccoons.
Let's see here.
That's his story. I suppose it isn't all bleak. There were some sections that I thought were maybe less doomy, I guess. D-evenmens, or day-evenmens, however you say that. There's a section towards the end where the guitars will sort of lift up the song. The mood kind of changes a little bit. At least maybe he's embraced that he's absolutely fucked. I don't know. It's hard to get the whole gist of it, because, I don't know what the lyrics are. But the mood sort of shifted. It kind of was a little bit uplifting.
It gets a little uplifting in this case. Now the vocalist is no longer really like screaming for whatever is happening. He's more like, at this point in the game, kind of singing his case. Like, he knows he's defeated, but he was like, maybe I'll make the best of it or something at this point in time.
He'll befriend one of the raccoons. That one will offend him.
There are a lot of good jams in this. Around the 4-minute mark, it really turns Neurosis-y, but they do a good job of letting not only the vocals tell the story, but letting the music tell the story too.
This album will gravitate between extremes, like extremely soft and subdued to layers and layers of heavy. And honestly, the song Het Doorn is probably one that I think has those dynamics that are just that extreme. The song starts off very dreary from the rip with these isolated guitars, and then just builds into just horrifically somber, downtrodden, Neurosis like beatdown.
Yep.
But all of a sudden there's this interesting interlude where there's yet another spoken word passage, which we're going to get back to that. And it slowly builds the song back up, and it builds it up to honestly one of the heaviest moments on the entire album. And when this album decides to get heavy, it is just
bone crushing.
More gravity than a collapsed star. This is a really cool example of their giant dynamic shift, though, because it went from, again, one of the most quiet moments to one of the most heavy moments. And there isn't much of a warning. Like, you just slowly hear the guitars get more and more isolated and subdued, and then boom.
Right, like you can hear him click on the mic for the amp. Like, it's that abrupt. Like, click, bam. So, as in any story, you end up with a fair amount of narration or some spoken word to kind of set the pace. And the spoken word appears probably the most in the song Day Dude in Blue. I know I said that wrong, but I have no idea. So the song enters in with the synths leading out from the previous track, and then it's the first time you hear the female voice speak. Like, she starts to tell the story, but it's whispered in the background. It's over these big, lush soundscapes, but she tells a story, and then a guy enters in the conversation, and then they both talk to each other. And that whole thing is just kind of creepy.
It's like this weird section of dialogue. Again, I have no idea what they're talking about, but the tone of it, I don't know. It screams like a depressing conversation about something, maybe the futility of existence, or I don't know, something deep and dark, and with all these lush, creepy scents in the background. I mean, that kind of completes the mood.
Yep.
And mood is the big thing on here, and sometimes I think it might be a little bit too much. I think sometimes this is trying to make more of an artistic statement than a musical statement.
Seems like it's more of like a concept album. I'd say that there's more spoken word and more somber moments and more just quiet, kind of like retrospective moments than there are musical moments.
I don't know. I think it's a little bit split more towards the musical side, but there's a lot. There's a lot of, I don't know, dialogue. I guess this would be like, if this was like a film critique, it'd be a lot of exposition.
Yeah.
You know, but again, if I knew what they're saying, this might be completely necessary to it. But at the same time, how they say it kind of says a lot in its own way. This whole thing feels like the soundtrack to emotional trauma. I mean, that would be my guess. I don't know, just the way that it sort of ebbs and flows. It just kind of has that feel. And it's interesting, you almost kind of want to bring up the difference between oppressive and depressive. This feels more depressive. Like, there's an emotional weight to this.
Like, there was one time where dude was screaming about something, and like, for just a second, I was like, buddy, I feel your pain. Like, I've been there. Like, it feels like desperation and pleading for either something to change or for death to come or whatever. I've been in some dark places myself, and I
storage units.
Yep, storage units with raccoons. Yep, I felt
Same
that.
one.
So, whatever they're trying to get across, like it's depressive.
Yeah. So overall, I really enjoyed this, even though it's a giant bummer. I'm reasonably sure it is, at least.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm a big fan of Amenra. I had the pleasure of seeing them a few years ago with Voivod and Yob. Hell of a show.
Yeah, dude, that sounds like a great show.
They put on a killer performance. And this is definitely another interesting album. This is the first one in terms of full lengths that has been called Mass something. I believe the last one they did was Mass 6. This, I don't know, might be a different chapter for them. But overall, I like it. I think it's a little heavy on the exposition, though. So I'm going to give us 3.5 stars. I dig it. It's really good. I think Amenra has done like more complete albums in the past, but this is still another really good one. And I like music that makes me think and kind of feel, you know, in terms of like, you know, what they're doing. This is definitely that kind of album. And this isn't one where you just skip tracks. I would even say you got to listen to the spoken word interlude, listen to this whole thing and see what you get out of it, because I think this is just a really interesting journey of an album, and you should definitely check it out.
I'm gonna give it a 4. I am not overly familiar with Amenra, although I know who they are and have heard things here and there. This would be the first album that I sat down and kind of got to listen to as a whole. And Nick's right. You know, to skip through songs, I mean, you could, because the first song kicks ass, but you're better off to listen to this as a whole because it's telling a story. And there's no way that you're going to be fully immersed in this story unless you listen to the whole thing. Again, to agree with what Nick said too, you can definitely feel this album. I too like albums that make you think and make you kind of go outside the box, kind of go on a journey when you listen to it, you know? Whatever the hell is happening, even though I can't understand it, I feel it. Just the overall soundscape, I think, all of it. It was just so enticing. But yeah, it's a good jam. 4 stars for me. Definitely go pick it up.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon, so if you'd like to help us out there will be a link below for that. We're working on putting some more material on there.
Actually, we have a really cool idea. So.
Oh, it's gonna be glorious.
It's gonna be fun.
Anyway, yeah, that's a good teaser for Patreon. Watch us be dumber than we are here. It's very, very possible.
It happens a lot, actually. When this camera goes off, you guys have no idea.
More than you think. We also have shirts, too. If you would like to get a shirt, please get a hold of us at thrallsofmetal@gmail.com. And let us know you want a shirt. Put it in the subject matter, big caps locks, bam, so we can't miss it. We're getting old, can't see shit.
Yep.
And we'll get back to you, get your information, get your sizes, and get one sent out to you. And make sure you wear it with pride and tell everyone you know a bunch of losers on the internet.
Because that's not a thing that's prevalent on the internet these days.
No, losers of the internet, no. We're trying to corner the market.
Yep, we're doing good.
We're doing
Loser.
Good. Giant losers. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you later.